Hello, I'd like to welcome you to the training entitled Your Business Plan. What's the goal of today's training? Today we'll work together so that you are able to create your own business plan. You will learn about the advantages of a business plan and learn how to implement this in practice. My name is Henning Glaser and I will be guiding you through this course. If you've ever created a business plan before, you'll probably not have said afterwards, "Great, now I can finally create my own business plan." Or if you went to the bank, they might have said, "Wait a minute, please illustrate your operation to us by creating a business plan." It seems that business plans are the worst nightmare for entrepreneurs when they're required from somebody else. But this need not be so, because in my opinion, a business plan is the lifeblood of your company. As far as I know, there's hardly any other tool more important than a business plan. And this has nothing to do with the fact that I happen to be giving a training on the matter. No, it's simply the observation from past experience that every successful business also has a business plan. This doesn't mean that if you haven't been successful and you now make a business plan that you will be successful tomorrow. But you would have a guideline to which you can coordinate your efforts. This means that in my opinion, most companies nowadays are working without a plan. For example, the internet has been a fertile ground for entrepreneurs, or also employees who tell themselves, "You know what, I'm going to make some sort of online business. I'll get a URL, make some sort of newsletter, collect some emails, make an ebook about it, and then presto, I'll be an entrepreneur and will become correspondingly rich." And most of these entrepreneurs have no business plan at all. But a business plan, as I'll get around to showing you later, is very important. I will also give you some essential tips on how you will become more successful with your company. A business and not an amateurish sideline effort. And I will show you afterwards how to build up such a business plan and why it's important. You also have received a sample business plan with this training with which you can guide your efforts. Which part of a business plan is so important? I will lay this out right here on this slide. Normally we can assume that you start here. Then you somehow expect that your company grows and keeps climbing. That's the plan anyway. You begin and then the company grows on its own and you go forward. Everyone has their favourite saying about it. Whatever happens on the micro scale will be replicated on the macro scale. You begin and then you miss your original goal ever so slightly. Then you tell yourself, "Oh well, it'll be fine, not a problem at all." But this deviation grows ever larger. And you can already recognise that the difference between your business's performance and your original expectations keeps growing and growing. If this happens in your business's profits performance, then at some point your business will experience a collapse. You'll be telling yourself, "Damn, there's no profit continuing like this." Or, "The company which I now have has nothing to do with the company which I always wanted to have." Therefore, it's true that if you don't have any business goals described in a business plan, then you have nothing with which to guide your efforts. Because normally, if you have a business plan, the course of events looks more like the following. You discover in a certain category that this goal might be missed. But what do? You tell yourself, "I actually wanted to reach this target and follow this course." Then you follow your prescribed guidelines, maybe even exceeding your targets. But you don't change course exclaiming, "This is my guideline and this is what I wanted to follow." You always follow this guideline, corresponding to your business goals and towards the business which you originally wanted. You always have the prescribed guideline to refer back to. Big companies almost always have a business plan, yet even they are not always immune to disappointment. Let's take, for example, the recent events surrounding Nokia. A few years back, Nokia was worth more than 30 billion euros. If you ask around in seminars, which of you have ever had a Nokia mobile phone at one point or another, the answer is often all of them. Because at one point, seemingly everyone had a Nokia mobile phone. And then this all changed when the users started saying, "What type of phone is this? It does not meet my expectations from Nokia. I will check out what their competitors are producing." And the users found something which they liked. Of course, from Apple with their iPhone. The iPhone has now achieved an unbelievable hold on the market and has basically destroyed Nokia, who is now being sold to Microsoft for 5 billion euros. Now, one must be careful to avoid saying, "Oh well, I'd also be satisfied with 5 billion euros. This is not a suitable mentality for an entrepreneur. 5 billion euros is clearly a lot of money. But say the same happened to your company whose value was, let's say, 500,000 euros a few years back, and now only 100,000 euros today. Would you still say to yourself, well, 100,000 euros is still better than nothing? This is a dangerous mentality to have as an entrepreneur. If you were trying to sell snow tyres for 500 euros, but you only received 100 euros, would you be content with that? No, that would be unacceptable, and the same is true for entrepreneurs. You must closely examine the case. Nokia certainly must have found a discrepancy in their books at some point in the past. Indeed, if you hemorrhage several millions per day, then you must indeed ask yourself at one point, where's the money gone? They must have been saying to themselves, damn, last week there was at least 100 million available. Where's that money now? Then somebody answers, I have no idea. I don't work in this department. Nobody takes responsibility, and from a small discrepancy becomes an ever-growing hemorrhage. At some point, it's no longer manageable. This is why a business plan is indispensable, because it provides a compass with which you can guide your efforts and a guideline for making decisions. This is why it's important that you create a business plan, whether you need one at present or not. Which brings us to our next point. When is it necessary to create a business plan? Of course, it's always recommendable to make one during the start of your business. Always. It doesn't matter whether you need money from banks or not. Always create a business plan when starting a business. I'll get to the particular content shortly. But it's always necessary, and this is worth repeating, always create a business plan if you decide to go on your own and create a business. You will then always have the business plan to guide your decision making and path forward. If you need investment for your new business, for example from banks, from private investors or from venture capitalists, you will anyway be required to have a business plan, since all of these sources of capital request one. Rather than quickly cobbling one together, take your time to do this. 1 week or even 2 weeks, whatever your plan requires. I call this work strategic and operative planning. Many companies operate without a business plan. Let's say you want to start a fast food stand, and so you tell yourself, I'm starting a French fry stand. Great. You found your business and you proceed to sell your French fries, burgers, hot dogs and everything else you're selling. The stand continues to operate for years and even decades. Everything continues even though you don't have a business plan. Now there's another entrepreneur who says, you know what, I want to make a fast food stand, but I really have some amazing recipes. It would be really good if I didn't have only one fast food stand, but 2 or 3 or 4 or 10,000 of them distributed around the world. I'll write up a corresponding business plan. This means that the second entrepreneur approaches the same goal, but with a completely different strategy, because he declares in his business plan that his goal is to have 100 fast food stands within the next 3 to 5 years. He decides to start off small. He works towards completely different objectives than the entrepreneur who merely states that he wants to open a fast food stand. This is a common pitfall. Would-be entrepreneurs create some sort of URL, publish something on a web page without giving too much thought to the prospect of where they want to be in a few years. What do you actually want to achieve in a few years? These are fundamental questions which must be answered in a business plan. I've added a few categories beyond strategic and operative planning so that you can better see what it's about. These are often strictly business jargon, for example, plans of succession, external sales, mergers, capital requirements, followed by investment decisions, expansion. This means that for each of these categories you must have individual business plans, since you do want to deal with investment. You must also consider how you want to integrate these subjects into your previous concept. If you want to expand, then the same applies. For capital requirements, those being either externally financed or financed by yourself, the same is necessary, since it's important to know what type of business is being financed. It's even more important in the categories of plans of succession and company sale. Nobody purchases a business without a business plan. Many companies are put together in such a way that they're unsaleable. A thriving company which is unsaleable is a tragedy, because that means that there is no plan and no system. The same applies for plans of succession. A father cedes his company to his son or daughter or children. The children ask themselves, oh, what did our father do actually? What were his goals? What do we have for goals? Then they change the entire structure. The company tanks and everyone is dissatisfied because there was no plan for these situations. That's why it's extremely important that if you have discussions about these topics in your company, that you also codify your positions in a well-defined business plan. And so we continue. What are the fundamentals if I want to create a business plan? And so we continue. What are the fundamentals if I want to create a business plan? Starting from scratch. There are certain sources of help, for example, a marketing plan. One of the most important topics for independent entrepreneurs is marketing. We provide a dedicated training product for this in our portfolio, in which we delve deeper into marketing. Marketing is one of the most important topics because we are all overwhelmed with advertising nowadays. Everywhere we are distracted by companies wanting to sell us something. This is a large problem because it's difficult to obtain exposure in the crowded space. What's the solution? The solution is more advertising. That means that although we live with way too much advertising, the solution which we implement is to bombard people with even more advertising. I'm not sure what the general trend is, but I believe it's going in the direction of storytelling. This is one of the new concepts, a new measure with which we can very easily access an audience, and which also costs nothing, only using certain narratives of a company which gets passed along from person to person. Here's yet another example, the company Nordstrom. When I first read the name of the company, I thought it was an electricity provider, but no, they produce clothing. It's a tradition in this company to collect and award the best stories of their employees. I can recall one of these stories. As mentioned, they sell accessories and clothes, but they have the slogan, "If you ever want to exchange or return anything to us, please visit any of our stores for an exchange or return." So one day, somebody came by and placed snow chains on the counter, saying that he would like to return them for a refund. Any normal person would probably have said in that moment, "We don't sell snow chains. You couldn't have purchased these from us." But what did they do? They said, "Yes, if you'd like to return these, then we can accept them. How much did you pay for these? Here's the money." Any normal person would say, "I would never do that. What am I, such an idiot that I would maybe give him €100 for his snow chains?" But what is the end effect of this story? It is that this story gets around. I'd better remember that it's an amazing story. They accept returns for snow chains. That's crazy. Now, whenever you look around the larger city, you find shops and stores everywhere. Then suddenly you spot a Nordstrom store. Whoa, check out Nordstrom over there. That was the company with the snow chain story. Except the people didn't run home to get their snow chains to turn in. They run into the store and want to see what type of store that is. And this is how new customers are found. This is another example of how marketing can be performed using stories and word of mouth to achieve large advances in front of the competition. Best of all, it's for free, except for the snow chains. But the snow chains are much cheaper than the typical advertising budgets. This is a very big deal. What else is there to discuss? I should mention the financial plan. For sure, this is also a fundamental necessity. When will you obtain finances? From where and how? The answer to these questions will be contained in the financial plan. Another aspect is the production plan. This involves inspecting production facilities. If you have a completely new company, then you don't have this yet, meaning you do not have a production plan yet, because you might first want to produce a small amount, and for that reason there is no need for a production plan in your initial business plan. What remains is the essential human resources plan. Planning for a new business also includes a precise human resources plan, which shows how your staffing levels should be for the next 3 to 5 years. If you found your company on your own, you need to ask yourself the following questions. Do you want to have employees? Do you plan on making specific tasks which you can then give to future employees? Do you want the business to grow? If you begin with 10 people, or now have 10 people, and you make an investment, do you want to immediately grow to 20 people? The answers are all essential ingredients which belong in your business plan, all of which prescribe the foundation of your human resources strategy and how you will act. The next point is the research plan. In case you have a very innovative company which produces completely new products or services, for which research must initially be performed. You find here a template for a research plan which you may use as a basis. Of course, it's crucial to mention corporate intellectual property. In addition, regarding the new company, who is in charge of making the business plan? The foundation for this is the corporate intellectual property of the entrepreneur to whom the company belongs. I'll get back to the point on the slide after the next